One of the things that you learn when you're in sales is that if you've been in sales for any length of time, there are all kinds of interesting and humorous situations that you run across. And one of the things when I was a sales manager in the Northeast for a large company, I tried to encourage my salespeople to be very creative, not just in selling situations, but also in resolving problems and opportunities where they could be creative, hopefully would help the situations. And one of the times we ended up with a very large customer who we had totally screwed up, made a major error. And so the customer, Dave, the purchasing agent, called our office and he said, I need to see Steve in my office as soon as possible. He was clearly angry, clearly irritated. So Steve was a fairly eccentric sales guy. He was a good one, but he was kind of an eccentric fellow. So before going in, he went to a costume rental place and decided to rent a suit of armor. And so he got this fairly authentic suit of armor, metal everywhere, big helmet, visor, metal on top of his shoes, clank, clank. And so he went over to the customer, to the lobby, met with the receptionist outside the purchasing agent's office. And I'm sure the look on her face was something interesting. And he said, I'm here to see Dave. Dave wanted to see me. So the receptionist, I'm sure she's thinking, and I wasn't there, but I got this story in some detail at a later point. And I'm sure she was thinking, boy, I got to see this. So she goes into Dave's office and says, Dave, Steve's here. So he said, send him in. So here goes Steve, clanking into the clank, clank, clank. Sounds like a guy dragging 20 tin cans behind him. And he walked up to the desk right in front of Steve, set down his briefcase, clank, down went the visor. And he said, Dave, he said, I can't fix what happened in the past, but give me your best shot. And when you get through, maybe we can sit down and work this out. And this purchasing agent, who was sort of a tightly wound guy normally, but had had a good relationship with us, he looked at him for a minute and he just cracked up. And finally he said, Steve, sit down. And so Steve clanks over to the chair, sits down in it, raises his visor, and they proceeded to talk and work out the situation. And a couple of things that are interesting here. One of the key things that you have to deal with problems, which I mentioned in my book, is that you've got to defuse the situation. You've got to try to get past the anger and the irritation and all the things that happen with problems and try to get where you can look at the problem from the same side. And he did a really good job of that in this situation. And again, it's not something I'd necessarily recommend, but it worked for him. And true story, by the way, as I said. And the other thing was, I actually never saw the cost of that suit of armor on his expense statement, but he probably had it in there somewhere. But the more I didn't know was fine, because I would have considered that a business expense.